On countless worlds, civilizations had fallen to the might of the Zorth, their advanced weaponry and tactics proving insurmountable. Entire star systems surrendered without resistance, so complete was their domination. To the Zorth, conquest was inevitable, a simple outcome of their superior technology and unwavering resolve. And yet, all of that was about to change on a small, unassuming blue planet called Earth. Here, humans lived their lives unaware of the looming threat from the stars above. They were a resourceful species, clever in their ways, but bound by their own limitations. It was precisely this perceived weakness that had led the Zorth to believe Earth would be an easy victory, a mere stepping stone in their grand design for universal domination. The Zorth flagship, the Eclipse, entered Earth's atmosphere with silent, calculated grace, its massive silhouette casting a dark shadow across the landscape below. Commander Varric, a seasoned warrior and a veteran of many conquests, stood proudly at the helm of the vessel, his gaze fixed on the strange terrain displayed before him through a vast holographic display. As he surveyed the unremarkable scenery, he felt a spark of disdain. This would be easy, he thought. Conquering Earth would barely register as a footnote in the Zorth Empire's long history of victories. Turning to his loyal and disciplined crew, he issued his orders, his voice steady yet authoritative. "Prepare for landing," he commanded. His crew, skilled and devoted, obeyed without question, their hands moving deftly over the controls as they began calculating the ideal landing coordinates. The Zorth had faced all manner of challenges across the stars, conquered advanced civilizations, subdued monstrous creatures and outwitted cunning adversaries. But for all their experience, nothing could have prepared them for the unpredictability of humans. As the Eclipse descended toward the surface, an unusual mixture of anticipation and unease settled over the crew. Rumors had circulated among them of humanity's tenacity, whispered tales of their stubborn resilience against all odds. But these stories were dismissed as mere legends, exaggerated accounts meant to entertain. After all, what could a species so dependent on primitive technology do against the might of the Zorth Empire? Meanwhile, in a remote research facility on Earth, a team of scientists monitored strange signals from deep in the sky. Dr. Maya Chin, a brilliant astrophysicist with an insatiable curiosity for the cosmos, had long theorized that extraterrestrial life might exist. For years she had studied radio waves, unusual patterns and cosmic signatures, but nothing could have prepared her for the signal that came through that day. It was unlike anything she had encountered before, a regular, intense pulsation that seemed far too structured to be natural. Her heart raced as she studied the readings, her fingers trembling over the controls. After a moment's hesitation, she called out to her team, her voice steady but laced with excitement. "We're not alone," she said, her eyes locked on the screen. The rest of her team looked up, their expressions shifting from curiosity to apprehension. As the Zorth flagship touched down in a barren desert chosen for its isolation, the alien crew prepared to make contact. The exit ramp of the Eclipse opened with a soft hiss, and the Zorth soldiers, clad in gleaming advanced armor, emerged, their weapons at the ready. At the front of the procession was Commander Varric, his confidence apparent in his every movement. He had led countless invasions, witnessed the fall of entire civilizations, and yet he viewed this Earth with a peculiar indifference. Standing atop the ramp, he surveyed the empty landscape, his eyes cold and calculating. Raising his voice, he called out in his native tongue, "We come in peace," a statement he delivered with a slight sneer. For the Zorth, peace meant submission, and they expected humanity to yield without a struggle. However, the human response was not what Varric anticipated. Rather than fear or the obedience he had expected, he was met with a determined resistance. Emerging from the rugged terrain of the surrounding mountains, a group of armed soldiers appeared, their faces hardened with defiance. Leading them was Colonel James Harland, a seasoned military strategist who had spent years preparing for potential extraterrestrial threats, no matter how unlikely they had once seemed. His voice was steady and commanding as he called out to the alien invaders. "You think you can intimidate us?" he shouted, his voice ringing out across the desert. To the Zorth, Harland's defiance was bewildering. These humans were supposed to be cowering, overwhelmed by their arrival. Yet here they were, standing against them, refusing to submit. Commander Varric raised an eyebrow, a flicker of intrigue crossing his otherwise stern expression. The human's response was unusual, yet he dismissed it as a minor anomaly. "We are the Zorth," he announced, his voice echoing with authority. "You will kneel before us or face obliteration." At his command, the Zorth soldiers activated their energy shields, which shimmered to life, surrounding them in a protective aura. Their weapons glowed with a strange, pulsating energy, each one capable of devastating destruction. Yet, Colonel Harland remained unfazed. With a firm nod to his team, he signaled them to prepare for combat. "No one kneels here," he declared, his expression unwavering. "Prepare to defend our planet." What began as a tense standoff quickly escalated into a full-blown battle. The Zorth unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, each one lighting up the desert with bursts of vivid color. The humans retaliated with their conventional weapons, bullets and missiles filling the air with a relentless fury. Though outmatched in technology, the human soldiers displayed an impressive resilience, fighting with every ounce of strength they had. As the battle continued, it became clear that the humans were not merely holding their ground, they were adapting. Unlike the Zorth, who relied on direct confrontation, the humans used guerrilla tactics, taking advantage of the terrain to outmaneuver their foes. They set traps, utilized the cover of the rocky landscape, and quickly learned to exploit the weaknesses in the Zorth armor. Observing the chaos from his command post, Varric felt a flicker of concern. These humans were far more resourceful than he had anticipated. "These creatures are more formidable than we expected," he muttered to his second-in-command, Zara, who stood beside him, her sharp mind racing with possible strategies. "Perhaps we should consider negotiations," Zara suggested, her tone cautious. "Their leaders may be more reasonable than their soldiers." But Varric, filled with pride and an unyielding sense of superiority, dismissed the idea. "No," he replied, his voice firm. "We cannot show weakness. We are conquerors, not diplomats." Yet, despite his words, he could not ignore the growing sense of doubt gnawing at him. The humans were fighting with a tenacity he had never encountered before, and for the first time in his career, he felt uncertain. As night fell, the desert was transformed into a war-torn battlefield, illuminated by the eerie glow of energy weapons and the sporadic flashes of gunfire. The humans had established a makeshift command post nearby, where Dr. Chen was hard at work analyzing data gathered from captured pieces of Zorth technology. "If we can hack into their systems, we might be able to turn their own weapons against them," she suggested, her eyes gleaming with determination. Though exhausted, Colonel Harland recognized the potential in her plan. "Then let's make it happen," he replied. "This could be our chance to gain the upper hand." With their combined efforts, the team managed to infiltrate a weakened Zorth communication relay, redirecting energy flows and creating a feedback loop that caused critical malfunctions within the Zorth systems. As dawn broke over the desert, the Zorth forces found themselves in disarray. Their once unyielding technology now faltered, weapons misfiring and energy shields flickering erratically. To Varric's horror, some of his soldiers began turning against each other, their malfunctioning armor creating chaos within their ranks. "What is happening?" he demanded, his voice laced with panic as he watched his forces crumble. The pride that had sustained him through countless victories was now a heavy weight dragging him down. In that moment, Varric realized the humans were not just an unexpected obstacle, they were a formidable opponent, fighting with a strength and unity that he could not understand. Desperate, Varric issued the only command that remained. "Fall back," he shouted, his voice filled with a mixture of frustration and disbelief. The Zorth scrambled to retreat to the eclipse, abandoning their dreams of conquest. As they fled, the human soldiers rallied, their cheers filling the desert air. Dr. Chen and Colonel Harland stood together, their gazes fixed on the retreating invaders. "We did it," Dr. Chen whispered, a mixture of disbelief and triumph in her voice. Colonel Harland, his face worn but victorious, allowed himself a grin. "Yeah," he replied, his voice filled with pride. "We showed them that we may be small, but we're not to be underestimated." In the aftermath, the Zorth returned to their home planet, forever marked by the lesson they had learned on that small blue world. They were not invincible, and in that humbling realization, they found a newfound respect for the humans they had once deemed insignificant. The story of humanity's resilience soon spread across the galaxy, a tale retold by countless beings who saw in Earth's victory a glimmer of hope. For the Zorth, Earth had been a lesson in humility. For humanity, it was a testament to their strength, unity, and unbreakable spirit. And for the galaxy it was a warning, never to underestimate the power of those who fought. The Zorth, having barely escaped with their lives and their pride in tatters, returned to their homeworld with a grim resolve. Varric, who had once been regarded as a hero, now stood before the Zorth High Council to explain his defeat. His commanders and leaders listened in silence as he recounted the battle, his voice filled with frustration and disbelief. They could hardly comprehend that an advanced Zorth fleet had been forced to retreat by a society whose technology lagged centuries behind their own. In their arrogance, the Council had seen Earth as a mere conquest to further Zorth expansion. But Varric's story painted a different picture, one of humans who fought with unwavering courage and unmatched adaptability. The Council members exchanged uneasy glances, realizing that humanity posed a unique and growing threat, not because of their technology, but because of something far more potent: their spirit. As the story of Earth's defiance spread across the galaxy, civilizations from distant star systems took notice. Species once cowed by the Zorth now whispered of hope, inspired by humanity's tenacity in the face of impossible odds. From the industrial giants on the edge of the galaxy to peaceful societies that had lived in fear of the Zorth, many began to prepare themselves in new ways. They saw humanity as a beacon, a species that stood for resistance, courage, and survival. Small alliances began forming, inspired by humanity's victory, as races that had once been rivals put aside their differences to form a new coalition, one centered on the principles of mutual support and defense. This newfound unity sent a powerful message to the Zorth, who, despite their vast resources, began to feel the weight of the opposition rallying against them. Back on Earth, life resumed, yet everything had changed. Humanity had taken a monumental leap, from being a solitary world unaware of the greater galaxy to a planet known across the stars. Dr. Chin, Colonel Harland, and the brave soldiers who fought that fateful battle were celebrated as heroes. But with the knowledge of the Zorth's intentions, Earth's leaders recognized the need to prepare for the day when the Zorth might return. A global effort to advance technology, fortify defenses, and establish an early warning network commenced, with scientists and engineers racing to unlock the mysteries of captured Zorth technology. United by a common goal, humanity prepared for a future in which they would not only defend their home but stand as a force in the galaxy, ready to protect not just themselves but others who shared their determination for freedom and survival.